Hello, everyone. Very welcome to this special episode. You might wonder why we are talking in English. The answer is that today we are pleased to have very special guest and international guest for this episode. So let me introduce our speakers. Directly from Canada, we welcome Steven. Steven is a digital UX since 2005. One wife, two kids, lots of fish, and usability and accessibility advocate. Very welcome, Stephen. How are you? How are you feeling?
Doing great. Happy to be here and happy to talk about the craft that we love so much. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, yeah, we are really pleased to have you. So I will introduce the next speaker from Guanajuato. Please welcome Vanessa, UX UI designer, business owner, movies, and soccer lover. Welcome, Vanessa. How are you? How are you feeling today?
Thank you for that lovely introduction. I'm very good, very excited to be here, and a little bit nervous too. But let's see how this goes.
I think that I'm nervous too. That's a thing in common today between you and I. But okay, I'm going to present the third speaker directly from Canada too. Please welcome Usar. He's an engineer who went rogue into the world of design. Start off as a software developer, moving into product management, and been living in design world since 2017. Wife is also an experienced designer, one toddler, loves travel and nature, listening to podcasts especially related to behavior science and economics. Welcome, Usair. How are you?
I'm good. Excited to be here. Excited about the topic too.
I'm also excited, and also that that you like podcasts. That's nice. Perfect. So, last but not least, from Guadalajara, we have Enrique, UX UI designer, metrics and dashboard advocate, taco lover, the best Spotify playlist creator, and one lovely daughter. Very welcome, Enrique. How are you feeling today?
Hello, Carla. Hello, everybody. Very happy to be here with you, and I'm hoping that I will represent Mexico the best today. But yeah, let's see.
Perfect, perfect. I'm really glad to have you here, and I think that the talk will turn really, really interesting. But first, I'm going to ask for a huge ovation, ladies and gentlemen, to this panel because not every day we have these personalities here in the Tilt podcast. So we will put applause sound here. um, Perfect. So today we are here to talk about why multiculturalism is key for good design. That is our hypothesis. And are we going to expose the right arguments to prove this? I don't know. We will see through the talking. But I have a surprise for you. I know that some of you love surprises and some of you don't, but I will have a nice surprise for you. And before getting into the talk, I would like to do a round of lightning questions. So I will ask the same questions to two of you, so you can answer regarding your preferences. And I think that from here we will start seeing differences between cultures. That is the main topic of this episode. So I think that it's gonna be fun. So I will that like setting the teams. Steven and Vanessa will be together, and Enrique and Usair will be together. So the first question is for Steven and Vanessa. Are you ready, guys?
Ready?
So ready.
Okay, perfect. So I will just drop the question. So Steven and Vanessa, favorite day of the week?
Ooh,
I'm
that's
so I'm
easy for me. Do you want to
Vanessa
go
after
ahead?
you. After you.
Oh, thank you. For me, that's Saturday. That's just the day where I get to do like all of the fun stuff.
Nice.
For me, it's a Friday right around 1 o'clock because you start getting excited, you feel everyone's energy, and you have the whole weekend ahead of you.
I love the accuracy of that statement. Friday at 1 p.m. Love it. I will continue with the next question to Usair and Chan. If you could travel back in time, what period would you go to?
That's a very interesting, intriguing question. Now that I am seeing my toddler daughter, I feel like I would probably want to go back to that age where I am just playing and have no responsibilities, no sense of time and constraints in the world. Just every day is about playing with friends and having the most fun in life. So maybe that's the time I would turn back the clock and go back to.
Perfect. Sounds really, really wholesome.
Yeah, and I feel the same. I was there because I also have a little daughter, and it's great playing with her. But it's like I also want to experience that again. So I think for me it will be the same. But also I'm a kind of well, I like history, and sometimes I like to think what it will be to live in a different era. And I mean, like the Roman Empire era, something like that. And maybe sometimes just for being curious on how much we actually know about those people, or maybe we have no clue on what the life was back then. But yeah, this is just for fun, I think.
Okay, last question for Stephen and Vanessa is define happiness. It's a hard one, but you can go.
I think for me, it's not that hard. I've always thought that happiness is what gives you peace. So when you feel at peace, you feel the happiest. So for me, happiness is peace.
Obviously you matched this up because it's a very similar answer. For me, I would describe it as when you're content, when you have the right weather, when you have the right company, when you have the right thing to drink very often, and when you have the right thing to eat, and not too much on your plate, and you just get to relax. I think that finding that peace, like Vanessa said, when you have that moment of contentness, it's happy. It doesn't mean fancy things. It doesn't mean special places. It's just what sometimes things are just right, and that's the happy time.
And the last question for Usair and Enrique is the place you most want to travel.
Oh, wow, interesting. Um, Most want to travel. So many. Within Canada, to send me to Calgary any day. And in the mountains around Calgary, but I would say any place in the world with mountains and lakes.
You should visit Monterrey, Mexico.
Yep, on my bucket list.
Yeah, for me it changes. I don't know. It's weird because sometimes I feel like I want to go to some other country because I want to meet a different culture and everything. But also, it's like Mexico is a big country, and I haven't met all the places here in Mexico. It's like I just want to go to this particular town that everybody's talking about. So yeah, it depends. But I really love traveling, so for me, it's the best thing that you can do.
Yeah, it's really insightful to travel and joyful to go on a trip. So yes, this was really, really, really insightful, really funny. These questions, I think that people, our listeners, have the opportunity to getting to know you better. So that's nice. But let's get into the topic. Let's get into it. So I remember when we were brainstorming about the topic for this episode and how Aspire Studios could collaborate, we came up with a bunch of ideas and themes. We have talked about the importance of the definition of culture and how empathizing with other team members is crucial to success as a team, as designers and persons. Also, we talk about how the home office has embraced people to show how who they are for real at their own moments and environments, and the challenges that multiculturalism faces. We discuss about many things, and we really want to. I really want to start elaborate on each topic during this talk, and I wanted to start defining culture. What is culture for you? What does that mean? What is culture inside a team, inside a design team? So I think that we can start with that, and then we can just let it flow everything. So I leave the mic here. Define culture, guys. Please help me define culture.
I didn't bring a dictionary with me, but we can make it up, and that's okay. I think the important thing about culture is not to be too rigid about it. Right? It's a place, it's a thing. Sometimes it's at Friday at 1 o'clock. Sometimes sometimes not. But what's important is that it's welcoming. And when you say culture, one of the things we're not saying, there are good cultures and bad cultures. So we definitely want to go more towards the good cultures. But I think that oftentimes, pulling back to that original question of what is happiness, it's just when things are right and when they're settled, when there's a plan, when you know what's coming, when you can trust the people around you. For me, that's what culture has a lot to do with, especially when we're talking about work. Um, yeah, I think that's my answer.
I love how you connect the question at the beginning with the happiness and the feeling of happiness, and how culture should feel too. I think that it's a nice connection here. I would like to hear more about you guys. I think that each of you have a definition of culture and how does it works on a design team.
I think for me, what I think culture is about is what makes something that makes people feel like they belong somewhere. So, like, for example, in terms of a company, what what makes you stay in the company and what makes you go to work and do your job every day, that's what would be the a company's culture or a team's culture. So, like, I don't know, like, for example, if we talk about the culture of a country, maybe the language and the traditions is what makes us feel like we belong to that country. So for me, that is what culture is about.
Nice, about the feeling of belong, of be part of something. And you just said it on the example that I think it's super accurate. Like, as to feel they belonging to a country, we have traditions, etc. So yeah, like culture has also elements, right? Like, if we put it on as a checklist, culture should have a checklist too, or not.
I would go with kind of what Stephen said. It's about keeping it fluid, but definitely culture has several aspects and elements to it. And at a society or country level, those could be like rituals. So we talked about favorite festivals, for example, right? Festivals are an element of culture, celebrations, finding happiness, relationships with your family, your people around you, your country, or the unit you're part of, or even smallest unit could be team. Um, but also most important piece is the belief and the value system, and then that's true at again every level of culture, at country, at maybe like religion. But coming back to the team, UX design team, for example, uh, there are some beliefs and values that become a collective of that group. For example, if we have to make it tangible, if a very well formed culture is very user centered, and one of the core uncoded behavior or value of the team is that they would advocate for users, they will find opportunities to get to users, even if it was not part of the project, not part of the timeline. You know what, I'm working on an app for a coffee company, let's say, why don't I go sit at the coffee shop, right, and observe few people while I'm working there. It's about finding those opportunities. I'll also bring up an example from Netflix, for example. The culture is over there is bias towards action, which is also one of the principles we like to say in design world. um, is they somebody observed in the development team that people are just browsing and browsing and dropping off. Lots of drop rates on for people. So they came up with that idea, but rather than going through the whole process of convincing people, they just coded something and took it to a very small segment of population and users, and they learned from it. Basically, like randomly select a movie for me, and and the autoplay feature. Some of these things came sort of in that behavior. So I would say it's how the team comes together around a belief system that defines them as a collective, right? Do they care about culture? People, are they performance driven, or are they like they're driven by outcomes? There are so many dimensions to it, but I think, Carla, I would say um, we don't need to be strict about it. It just kind of has to be a fluid thing, like Steven said. I like that definition because it's a bit more inclusive, doesn't put us into boxes. That's the most important piece to me if we talk multiculturalism.
Mm. Now I feel the pressure that everybody has. Share
You're going to be great, Enrique.
some descriptions, and like Steven say, I don't bring the dictionary with me, but I think in my case, I'm kind of with Vanessa. What Vanessa said is like the for me culture is about community. You know, how do you connect with all other people, and what is the things that you share with them, but also kind of related on what Usair was saying is important to remember that there are different dimensions when we talk about culture, and the people have different cultures that are it is not the same as you, and you need to account on that when you are working in a design team. And it's great when you get the chance, like in this example, that you get the chance to see the users, or you get the chance to see how people behave in certain situations, and you learn from them. For me, that's the most important part of this is that you get the chance to learn from others. And I think Steven wants to say something.
Oh, I was testing out the hand function for people who are wondering how that happened. We're breaking the fourth wall. Something that I love that everyone's been really getting at here, and to the original thing, I don't love checklists. If you make me do a checklist, I'm gonna not like it because you're sort of pre planning how you have something done for me. But one of the things I loved, and it was sort of everywhere, but Sarah, you hit it right on the head. It's the values, and I'm going to stop my hand from bouncing because it's distracting. Um, that a mentor of mine talked to me a lot last year about values, and oftentimes it's recognizing our own and recognizing that values in others can be different. And a lot of the times we get values, if I think about in office, out of the office, in the office, a lot of our values were the same. Kind of wanted everyone to dress the same, kind of wanted everyone to like work in the same way. So you got a little bit of culture for free. But now as we're working broader, and I think in the last couple of years I've never worked with so many international teams, and it's amazing because your values don't have to be the same, but you have to learn to appreciate the values of others and respect those. So I think that creating like one set of values is the worst thing that we could do. And it's the individuality and recognizing and supporting that in other people. I think that's something that really strikes me about culture. And I'm just very anti checklist in that regard.
Yeah, no, the checklist was like something to put on the table to agree or disagree. But I think that it was super nice that how we start talking about defining culture and how we start in the out from the outside, and then we put it in the inside, and how does work or has been working to each of you on a team. And I agree a lot with that. Like, it's about values, and it's about recognizing and appreciating the values that the other have, and not try to change it, or not try to nothing, and just to respect that, and to create ways and create their own culture of that specific group or a specific team that like, I believe that culture can also be created, right? Like, we can create a working culture, a team culture, etc. So yes, I think that it's a nice and a huge word, culture itself. Perfect.
Quite agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
As Stephen was speaking, it steered my mind back to the term you use, multiculturalism. I think that's it, right? We recognize, as Stephen was saying, value sets. It they're different, and the multiculturalism lens is everybody has different beliefs and value sets, and we value them. Like, we recognize them and we have empathy for others. We may or may not agree with them, that's fine, but very much recognizing that those values are important to the other person. And I think that's really the key definition in my mind too of multiculturalism.
Yeah, key definition of multiculturalism, and also I think that can respond to that question of why it is important working on design teams, or what could you like, what would you add to this, like why multiculturalism is important specifically while working on design projects. I think that Vanessa has something to say.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think for us as designers, it is like crucial. I mean, we don't always work with people from other countries or like, yeah, like multicultural teams, but we always work with multidisciplinary teams. So that also gives you the idea that having people from different backgrounds is always better for the outcomes of the project, because it makes you look at some things that you wouldn't look at yourself. Like, I don't know, for us as designers, if we talk about accessibility, for example, um I don't know, it could be something as simple as, for example, here in Mexico we are not super aware of like people with hearing disabilities or stuff like that, but in Canada they do, like a little bit more. So that brings that topic to the table when we are designing. And maybe if I didn't come up, or that didn't occur to me when ideating for our project, maybe someone from other country did bring that topic to the table. So for us, that we're always working on the perspective of users when we are designing, it's great to have multicultural teams because we have a lot more perspectives and it allows us to design better solutions. So yeah, like Steven is saying, like empathy and inclusion are key to it, and multiculturalism helps us um, like bring those topics to the table.
Totally agreed. Totally agreed. And also to see, to point out things that maybe you were missing, uh, and everything.
It's, and listening to what you're saying, Vanessa, it's spot on, right? And the expectation is that we shouldn't have to know how to work with everyone all the time right from the get-go, but it's important to recognize where we have some blind spots and really open things up. You talk about work cultures and multidisciplinary teams, even teams within the same country, within the same city, within the same office, can have very different cultures, and there are things that are frowned upon and versus supportive in different groups. So I think as UX designers, being empathic is something that's very core to what we do. And it's not just about us saying like, hey, we're designers, we're empathic, we'll care about folks. It's how do you share that? We do such a good job at sharing it with our end users and our business partners, but the teams that we're working with, that's the same. It's the same thing. I think if you have something good, share it. And it should be the same likewise. There's always a little bit of jealousy between teams who's having more socials and this and that. But it's great to open that up, figure out how can you do it virtually, how can you do it more inclusive of, if it's out for drinks, how can you do that for folks who don't happen to drink, right? And the more we think about having those sort of group activities, cultures, functions that are more inclusive, I think it's just design sort of manifesting itself on a grander scale. So let's keep doing it. and share the good stuff.
I love how we start like playing this game of question, and now we're like pretty deep in the conversation. Like, really, really, it's really, really cool to see this happen.
We can come back to the questions at the end if you want.
No,
I have a bunch of list of questions,
that's
but
good.
we will keep it for later.
Sounds good.
Yeah, yeah, it sounds good and funny. So I agreed with all of you and all what have been said about why it's important on design teams. And as you said, Stephen, I really love that we can be on a design team, everyone on the same city, same zone, same company, same everything, but having different cultures. So yes, I think that culture um, nurtures a team. So, Usair, you can you can talk.
Uh, so I will continue and extend the conversation. We talked about the culture in the design team, and now this might sound meta, but really, we are designing for users. And one of the other lens of understanding users and having a multicultural team is to widen our aperture, and we have wider empathy for a larger set of people. Because what tends to happen, if folks in the room who are designing tend to be of same culture, same background, same country, they tend to have, everyone has biases, right? It's the perspective, it's the lens. But having different people in the team and having different beliefs, values, identity, history, they bring a very diverse picture to the room. And it lets us design for our end users who are not a monolith, who are living, breathing people with lots and lots of different values and important things in life. They have different perspectives. One menu could be really trivial for somebody, and it could be really, really important for another person because it pertains to their daily life ritual, for example, right? So knowing the why. And I think as we were speaking about it, another analogy that came to my mind is almost culture is almost like a code, like software. We are programmed a certain way, right? And joke about Canadians is that we hold the door too long for people to pass by because Canadians are polite. Maybe a bit of exaggeration, but it's how we're programmed, right? So from design, again, not at the risk of sounding meta, is it helps us understand the why behind what people do, right? It's about observing people. It's about uh, peeling the onion back and observing if certain things are happening or people are reacting certain way. Why? And those answers are not found by engineers, by analytics folks. This is the job solely for designers because we want to understand people and we want to understand the human side of the equation, right? So I think multiculturalism, particularly, and I will bring up example of IDEO and others like large design firms. They have made a big deal about it because diversity is so important. So they actually make active conscious choices to bring people from diverse backgrounds. Like early videos, again, they're markety, but still I have a lot of, I draw inspiration from those videos from IDEO. Is that they have industrial designers, avionics engineers, biomedical folk, or somebody from software. They all come together to solve a problem and bring a very different perspective. um, which I will conclude that that brings really innovation, because going back to the point of perspective, if we have different points of views and we bring different ideas, we bounce off each other, and that's really what drives innovation. Because if we are one group, one software, one program, and our output is kind of begin to look like same formulas, same set of uh, experiences or things that we generate for people.
Perfect. Yeah, totally agreed. And I think that we talk about culture, about how does it work on a design team, and I want to put on the table the challenges, because we have been talking about why it is important and all the things that looks positive, but of course on each thing there is a challenge. So what will be the challenges of this, of working on this multicultural and multidisciplinary design teams?
So one of the challenges is balancing. Most people do care. Most people who I've worked with over the last going on almost 20 years have been good, caring people. Right? It's very odd that you would meet someone who doesn't. And so often there's a lot of pressure to get something done. But to get something done, you need a good team, and that good team has to care about one another. And caring doesn't just happen from, hey, let's have drinks for 10 minutes and then we'll get to work. That doesn't happen. It's a concerted effort. So, on top of the working, you have to do other working. That's important. But if you haven't built that team, your output still might be okay, but you're going to have less fun. You're going to have less of that, as they're saying, that back and forth, innovative type of banter to say, hey, how about this? How about this? It makes people comfortable with each other. If you're working with teams from different cultures, their understanding of hierarchy shifts. So there are some folks who may not want to surface things if their big boss says, we're going to make this thing red and they really think it should be blue. They might just sit quietly. But if you can create an environment where people can talk, they feel comfortable, they know that you care, and it's safe, uh, that will help you get through a lot more work quickly. Because one of the things you always see is someone who said, "Oh, I knew that wouldn't work." It's like, well, that's the least constructive thing that anyone can say. Why didn't you say it? Maybe they didn't feel comfortable. Um, but as long as you're sort of creating that type of environment, that's the challenge: is to stop, take time to care a couple times a day, couple times a week. But Vanessa, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think I very much agree with you. I think when we remember that it's not just designers working on a team, it's humans who are working on a team, humans who have uh, a lot more aspects of their lives outside from work, then we can understand and overcome the other challenges that multicultural teams face, such as, I don't know, like the time zones or language. When you work with a team where you feel safe with, then you can come up with things such as, I don't know, I have somewhere to be at I don't know, at a particular time, or I'm sorry, could you repeat what you just said, because I don't know, it's not the same, we don't speak the same language, and those barriers can happen. So yeah, I think remembering that we are humans and being empathic with others can help us overcome the other uh, extensive challenges that we can face when working with a multicultural team and when working remotely, such as we do.
Does
Yeah.
anyone have a situation they can call out around a challenge they might have seen in a program or a team, whether you were involved or not, and what you did or what you saw happen to help the culture or hurt the culture? Everyone likes a bad story, so
Yeah, I think one of the first projects I worked on when I first started working here, it was a team that had already started working on the project when I came in. So I don't know, they were already like maybe a couple months into the project when I just stepped in, and um, they were all from the same country and city. And when I started working with them, they had like a lot of small terms, or I don't know, like acronyms or stuff like that that I didn't understand. And I mean, it's not that they were not open to explain, or yeah, like be open to explain those to me. It's just that I was kind of afraid of just asking them, because I was just like, what if this is supposed to be something that I should know? Or I don't know, I just felt very very scared of like, I don't know, like getting embarrassed or something like that. But um, but yeah, like you said, when you approach someone, it's very unlikely to encounter with someone who is not open to solve those small things, because at the end of the day, there are very small details, you know. They're like a lot a lot bigger and more difficult things to solve than just explain something to somebody who is new. When you understand that you have other humans and not just designers in your team, and you finally understand that you are in a safe place, and that allows you feel more comfortable, and you know, just to perform better in every aspect.
And I don't know if someone want to share other story. It, like as Steven said, it doesn't need to be specifically to a teamwork. Can be a life story.
It's just like all those times in our life where, you know, sometimes you feel like an outsider, and that happens all the time. It happens at work, it happens with friends, it happens when you start school or you move or something. And there's that feeling of when you've been included and when you know you're in the group, when you've been invited to something. I think that's the special part, is that everyone starts as an outsider, and that's something everyone collectively can feel. But I would be interested in hearing life stories or work stories, whatever those happen to be, of like a time where that you felt that, and like that. What was that like? What happened? Just putting
I
everyone on
think
the spot.
I'm not sure if I have a concrete example, but I was thinking that in my life story, we move a lot from city to city. Do my father work, and this was a scenario, you know, that happens a lot to me. Like, I'm the new kid in the school, everybody knows each other, and you know, it's like you say, I feel like I'm the outsider, and I'm also an introvert, and very shy person. So it's like it was difficult to me, you know, to feel that I belong to that place. But I don't know. For me, it was funny because I always remember that it was music that helped me to connect with other people, because it was like I remember one time that we were in the line just before entering the classroom, and there was one guy behind me playing the guitar, and it was like, I know that song, and I just start like, oh, it's that one, and kind of singing with him, and just with that, it's like we became friends right away, and this was something that we shared and we didn't know before, and we start our relationship, and in this way I feel more welcome in the group, and this and I remember this happened again in another in another school. It's like, it was always the music. It was very funny for me because I didn't expect it. It wasn't planned, but it was like the way that I could connect with other people.
And that's why Enrique is called as the best Spotify playlist creator.
Yeah, sir.
So I'll build on what Enrique said. Like you really just threw me back down the memory lane. I'll share two quick personal stories. One, I moved a lot too. My father was in military, and we had to move almost every 2 years in our life to a different city and different school and make new friends. And like you were saying, it's not ever easy as a kid that you have to change your buddies every single time. And for you, it happened to be music. For me, it was a soccer game. Like I felt like I'm not part of that clique or group, or not at school, not at playground. And then I complained to my father, and he just bought me like soccer ball. And he said, "Well, if you own the ball, they're gonna have to make friends with you." And that changed the dynamics so much. I'm so glad he did that. Like, because I would take the ball, and now everybody has to play a game with me and include me in the team. So that clicked, and that just put me to comfort, and I still laugh at that story now. Just one small thing. The other one is a bit deeply personal thing, but I'll share because again, it's just these small gestures, right? It's how people care for you, and they put you into snap mode. Like you are like a newcomer lurking around, and then something happens, and you're like, aha, part of this team. You belong there, right? So for me, finding places for like prayer at work has always been a challenge, particularly in the Western countries. But as I joined the organization, the first week I found that there's a place for meditation and prayer, and I was like, wow, this is super amazing that I've worked in so many organizations, but this is what truly inclusion means, and that means to thought about that piece, right? And that to me was definition of bring your whole self to work is like you feel at home, right? So I think it's again we I'm pretty sure everybody has those million stories, but these are always small things. And going back to Carla's prompts and working in teams is we just have to create these moments of joy for others. It's just like you bring everybody in with those small gestures by knowing about what's important to them. Could be soccer, could be an event, could be a festival, could be anything.
Yes, and you said something very important, like to take the time to care about the interest and the feelings of each other, and to really like take the time to learn something also about the other. I remember that we were talking on the brainstorm session that we had, and we really, I think that we went deep into that about learning, and really be interested on others' interests or others' objectives or drivers. And I think that that is also a nice way, like put it on the other side. Like instead of I'm not going to tell a story where I felt a little bit not included or it was hard to feel welcome, but like in the other side, like being the person that is in the place to welcome others. I think that is a good practice to take the time to learn and to really show the interest of, hey, I'm really interested on whatever you are doing, or on what you believe, on everything. So, and I think that to be that open can allow other peoples to feel good, to feel content, to feel safe. I think that many hands up. So Vanessa, can you can go first.
Yeah, just what you said right now about learning, I think it's also like a very nice opportunity for us that work with multicultural teams and work remotely. For example, I don't know, like a couple of weeks ago, we had this holiday in Mexico, the Dia de Muertos, and I mean, I didn't have any experience about it, but I know about many other colleagues who had on their projects. Like, you know, when you get to say like, oh, you know, guys, I will be out of the office the November the 2nd because it's a holiday here in Mexico, and then the others get to ask why you celebrate this day, and then when you get to explain what you celebrate, like for example that specific day for us is very special. We remember the people who are not longer with us, and we do like these very cool and super meaningful gestures with altares de muertos and you know like all the catrinas and our representation of death itself. So it's a very nice holiday, and I think it's a very good opportunity from for people in other countries to learn about this holiday when like right now because I'm talking specifically about it, but you know about everything. It could also be like on the other hand having someone from other countries who have a holiday and then explain to us in Mexico what their holiday is about. And that is, you know, that's great because you get to really know about other cultures, about other people's traditions, and I think that's very valuable for us as teams. I mean, multicultural teams.
So I'm going to throw a fun, quick question to everybody, if that's okay. If I know everybody here travels, so what was one quick thing that you learned going to a new country, which was like, huh, they do this differently? Huh.
I have one super, and sorry because it's really a Mexican thing, and I was abroad, and I was with my mates, my classmates there. Two were from France and one for the Netherlands, and I think that I was in the kitchen and someone asked me like, hey, and I was eating something, like my mouth was, I was not able to speak, and she was asking me something, and I respond to her with this, like saying yes, because
For
for me
for
everyone can understand this.
can
Sorry,
you
Enrique.
explain the gesture you are doing just for the people that are listening?
Yeah, this gesture in Mexico, this gesture means yes, and this means no. But it's a gesture that is not internal international. But I didn't notice since they were like, "What are you saying?" And I was like, "This is yes." And after that, they were like uh, making jokes about it, and it was really really funny because to me it's super normal, super normal, and for them it was really weird. So yeah, that's my experience.
I agree. Yes, that was awesome story. I think for myself, I was in Greece. It's a beautiful country, and I was driving there. So I am from Canada, and I was driving in Greece. So all of my driving experience had been in Canada and a bit in the States, but this was a little different. And I remember driving along, and everyone's honking me all the time. I thought, I don't know what I'm doing wrong here. And my friend who was with me at the time said, "Oh no, that's just it's those aren't angry honks. Those are just hey I'm here honks or hey look out honks." Where here in Canada, if you honk someone, you better be prepared to get in a bit of a as polite as people are, they're not polite when you honk. So note to travelers. But over there, you would just be driving along, and if someone was coming down a side street and you heard a honk, it's like, oh, they're not stopping at the stop sign; they're going right through. Uh, but that is so understood, just like the yes no, and it was sort of like, oh, okay, that's pretty cool. But then you do learn about that, and you're kind of on the inside of it. And I guarantee you, I'll be doing this for the rest of my life now. But that's the fun of learning and feeling like you're in the group. Um, so I won't honk anyone at this time, but if we go somewhere else, maybe I will.
I have something that also it's like something that maybe it's super common, but I don't know, when I go to the US, it's our neighbor country. So I think this happens to everyone because we have the decimal metric system and they have another metric system. So when you go there and I don't know, like the GPS tells you something like in 2 miles, but I'm not used to measure distance in miles. My distance is kilometers. So so I'm like, 2 miles is what? Like that doesn't mean anything to me. And so yeah, that's something very funny when that happens when I go to the US.
Yeah, I think for me it would be I will take the same idea as Steven and Vanessa. For me, it happens a lot in calls and meetings. Like someone is telling me how's the weather. You ask something as simple, how's the weather over there? And yes, I don't know, whatever degrees. And I cannot imagine what does that mean in Celsius because it's really different. It's like I don't know if that's cold or that's hot, but okay, cool. But and also on the student example, it happens to me something pretty similar because um, my wife's family is from a little town here in Mexico in Veracruz in the coast, and I went some. It was my first time in that town, and they also tend the people in the town tend to do this like they're walking or driving their cars and they're honking and hey hey hey, and I'm like what? It's like, do they know each other? And I think they don't always know each other. It's just like it is. They're used to do that every time they're crossing with someone, and for me it was okay. That's cool. I have never seen anything like that, but I was like, I want to do it. Like I feel like I also want to feel part of this, and maybe I should start waving and saying hey hey to everybody.
It was a really good,
Amazing.
it was really, really good question.
Yeah, these are the very good examples of small things, right? And I agree with Stephen. Like I'm gonna do this yes sign for a very long time now, and maybe I will meet some friends and do this, and they will include me into their group because I kind of know the insider joke, right? I'll it's not travel related. It's related to some of the work that we were doing as designers. But something which was like mind-boggling for me, um, as we were designing healthcare experience for people within the same country, but people who don't know how to read and write. Next billion users often called. So we were doing like iconography, and we kind of assumed that the pharmacy symbol is very universal. And like you would see like a symbol of medicine and a pill and a bottle. These were our go-to symbols. But when we did the user testing, we were strangely surprised that the icons do not work with those users that we thought would be universal. Like Carla, you said that this symbol you thought would be like universal, but it's strange that that's the perspective, right? That it's not as universal as we think. Like they would, so their mental models were very interesting, which I would always remember never to make assumptions. Is that they wouldn't relate to icons, like fun icons that we make to them. An icon of the same thing versus the image of the same thing, they would take the image as to be that. Like for example, give me an example of ATM. A symbol of ATM illustration, they won't recognize it's ATM. But an image, real image of an ATM, they would treat it as, yeah, this is ATM. Oh, okay. So yeah, I think it's all very small symbols, rituals, small things which we take for granted, and which I was saying like is software programming to us. Like it's just routine. It's when you shift the perspective, it's not the default for others, and we just got to be careful and understand why.
Yeah, and to have the courage to ask, like to do not take it as an assumption, like to ask actually, like here, I don't know what this means or why is that for everything.
There's some important lessons in there, right? And one of the lessons, I think, something I learned, I was at a conference, I was really looking at inclusivity of women in the workplace. And there was I cannot for the life of me remember her full name, but I remember her name was Ruby. And she made this great statement that has stuck with me, and I think hopefully to our audience all around the world and the people in this virtual room can really listen to. And now I've built it up, so it better be good. It was, it's okay not to be perfect, but if you mess up, own it and try to make it right. And I think that, in those examples where, you are meeting new cultures and you are sharing things, and if it wasn't a fit, that's okay. No one expects anyone to be perfect. It's what you do afterwards with that information, especially as designers, right? We might get it wrong. That's okay. No one expects us to be perfect, but own it. Recognize. Don't just deflect it and say, "Oh, well, I didn't know," and da da da. No, sorry, I made a mistake. Here's what we can do to fix that. I'm here to work on that, especially if it's a personal relationship. That's another theme I see through the conversation here is we're really talking about relationships. One of the things I can't stand, and I know this is going to affect everyone who talks to me for the rest of my life, is when people say, "Oh, how was your weekend?" And you say,
oh, well, it was good, and I did this and that, and they say, cool, all right, so can you send me that PDF? And it's they didn't care, right? I think it's about being intentional about things like that. I've been called out by myself. There was one guy I worked somewhere, and he said, I asked him how his weekend was. He goes, "You don't care how my weekend was. You just asked 10 people how their weekend was, and I'm number 11. I'm impressed by how they watched me. But I thought about that. It's like, yeah, that's true. You can't just say things as a throwaway. That's my mistake. If I'm asking someone, like, care, listen to them, right? And I think that that care continues. Maybe we're the Care Bears. Maybe that's this episode. Who knows? But yeah, I think that's I don't know. That's any reactions or thoughts to that about not having to be perfect.
Yeah, I
P.S. You
think
don't have to be perfect.
yeah, I think like we just said, it's scary at first to try to belong, but it's just like what you said. When you understand that people don't expect you to be perfect, they expect you to learn and learn. Well, we always learn from mistakes, and that's I think that's the only way to actually learn something. But yeah, I think when you embrace your mistakes and you try to correct them, that's that's when you actually make a difference. So like, yeah, that's when you actually nurture that culture, and that when you build that safe place for everyone.
I think I wanna I don't know, share some personal experience around that. It's like I came from a graphic design background, and before being a UX designer, I was working in the digital advertising, agencies work. And one of the things that I didn't like too much is like you have to have the right idea all the time. The great, the wow factor. Around everything you're proposing on your designs. And when I kind of switched to the UX design world, one of the things that I really love most is like make mistakes early and learn from them. So don't worry about getting it wrong because that's the way you're going to learn, as Vanessa's coming. And for me, that was a big change. It seems something really simple, but I didn't need to worry anymore about doing something pretty impressive, but just trying to get something out there and learn from it. But yeah, I think that's something that I can share with you.
I really can feel connect with that because I was also I consider myself in the past Carla of the past of the week of a week ago was really scared of being wrong, of making mistakes. And I don't know if maybe it's a cultural thing, maybe it's my own culture thing and everything, and the way I grow. But yeah, I can consider myself the past Carla as a person afraid of being wrong. And it was at work uh, when I discovered that being wrong was not a bad thing. That was actually a good thing. And here at work, discover how important and how good was for me to be wrong at that moment, because without being wrong I couldn't know how to do the right the things right was. So when I changed my mindset, my mindset about that, everything changed. Like it was like an aha moment, like a super aha moment. And I really felt not afraid to being wrong anymore. And it builds in me a huge confidence. And I really and it was something that I discovered at work, working culture at being part of a design team. So it was like a lesson for a life, like a life lesson that I just learned here a couple of weeks ago. So yes, that's a personal sharing.
That's amazing. Carla, you mentioned like a few minutes back about being intentional and creating a culture, right? So my takeaways are yes, we can absolutely create cultures and belief systems for our teams and values, right? It takes time to build that culture, but we just need to be intentional. Key things are understanding what is important for our team and for the outcomes that we're driving towards as teams, care, empathy, um, detail orientedness, bias towards action. These could be sort of the markers that we can shape. And then we have to set up sort of a reward mechanism because rewarding things and behaviors we want more of, like were talking about, Carla, your personal story, that's really important, right? Celebrating the culture of failure. It's a very anti-culture, very alien concept to many teams, but making a safe space and encouraging learning through failure, um, and then celebrating it. Like there are many ways, and many teams have tried different things, but like they pick any ritual. Like few teams have a culture of celebrating some project failed, let's come together and celebrate it so that we can know that what we learned out of it. So if this is a thing we want to build into our team culture, then we build some rituals around it and we celebrate. Going back to projects and team meetings, I think what my takeaway is at the start of the project, knowing people at the people level and understanding sort of the things about them. It's not me meeting Carla and just knowing about her work, but also kind of understanding what goes around Carla and what is the culture around, what sports she likes, what books she reads, and what are other things. And constantly being in touch with our team members and celebrating their successes, their festivals, their symbols, at sports, soccer, World Cup coming. All those are reasons for us to know and connect with each other. And simply going back to Stephen's points of caring, it all demonstrates care for others. You remember their birthday, remember their celebration, remember their cultural ritual, even remember how to say hello in their language or a few other words goes a long way. So that those are sort of my takeaways. Is it's basics. It's we have to learn how to be human, um, care about each other, and imbue that culture and bring it all together for our teams.
Yeah, so I think that you did a great takeaway and a great summarize of everything. And I will ask as a closure to you, to each of you, to make your takeaways. What are your takeaways? What do you want to uh, to conclude out of this talk? So open mic, guys.
A lot here. I think, for anyone listening, you might think that we've known each other for weeks and months and years. It's been a little short time, but I think even this podcast episode itself, we care about each other. We listen to each other. We're trying to support one another. We're sharing ideas. We worked through preparations together. We listened. We understood each other's values and cultures and what was here. And I think the big takeaway is it shouldn't have to take a large event to do that. These should be daily practices that we always think of. And everyone's going to have different ways of doing this. You can keep a post-it note in your laptop that no one can see. When's the last time you asked someone how they're actually doing and actually listened, right? When's the last time that you offered some help? When's the last time that someone made a mistake and you helped them, right? I think we're all trained through our various educational facilities, which I appreciate everyone who works in them. But one thing that we do get wrong commonly that I see culturally is that we celebrate those who get it right. And those who get it wrong have to sort of like hang their head in shame. There's a difference between trying your best with what you know and getting it wrong, and just completely not paying attention and you get a bad output. I think when we have more of the former, where someone's tried, we did the best we could, sometimes users just don't like it. That's okay. Now we know something that we don't have to do. sort of almost like putting your arm around them, like work appropriately, emotionally putting your arm around them and saying like, it's okay, like we can do this together. Let's figure this out. I think those constant reminders, people will remember them, just like Enrique with the individual who played guitar behind them, right? Just like all these stories that we've heard. I think that it goes a long way. It's a small thing to you, but big to other people. So I think that's that. Vanessa, I saw your hand raise.
Yeah, I love that what you said. And I think one of my key takeaways of today is that making mistakes is like a universal. Making mistakes is not being. I mean, like, it's okay to make mistakes, and for us designers, that's like something that's universal. Just for what we've been talking, I can see that it is something that is okay for us designers. It doesn't matter where we come from, the country we're at. So that's like a universal language for us, maybe. And that is something that maybe we can pass on to other industries, because making that possible to make people being okay with making mistakes is something that is so valuable because you feel safe and you learn. So I don't know, that's something that I would like other industries to take from the design industry. And yeah, like you said, caring for others is key. I mean, caring is something that we repeated a lot through the talk, but it's true. So caring, just to build safe places for everyone inside the team.
Yeah.
Last but not
How do I
least,
top all
Enrique.
of that? It's like that was perfect. But okay, I'll, I'll do my best. Now, I think for me, my takeaway will be like always be curious, about others and their their life and their backgrounds, because and we used to say this a lot as designers, be curious, but this also, you need to remember to extend it to your team, because they're also humans. And this helps you also to understand them in a different level, and you learn from them. And for me, that's something that you never want to lose your curiosity. Is something that you can I don't know how to say it, but this helps you a lot to on how you connect with other people. And for me, it's like this is great. Like Steven was saying, we don't know each other for so long, but I feel that I connect with all of you, and this is what, for me, what multiculturalism is about. And that's quite a word. Sorry if I didn't say it correctly, but but yeah, I feel great talking with all of you, and for me, it was a great experience.
Yeah, it was really wholesome and insightful. This whole talking, even though we have technical issues, but listeners, they don't need to know. But yeah, it was really nice. And yeah, Usair, please give us your closing statement.
I think I kind of said this before, and so it won't take much time. I think we all chatted about it. Let's be curious. Let's be open to learning new behaviors and new cultures every single day. Um, I think that's really important for us in terms of design, in terms of understanding humans, um, and designing the best experiences for people. Because, like we said, people we're designing for have different cultures too, and I think that that's the takeaway. We bring in different diversity perspective, make sure our teams are multicultural. We have a lot to learn from each other. We continue doing this exchange of dialogue and promote all these rituals in our team, which bring us all together. I would say that I think that's kind of my conclusion, and I make a personal resolve that I would do something or pick up one small activity where I learn about different cultures going forward from team members who are part of my team or I interact with. Yeah, so that's my takeaway from today. But I learned a lot from you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Really, really, thank you. I think that I really enjoy this talking, and I'm sure that listeners are also will join this talk. And thank you for this collaboration between studios. It's really nice. I hope this. I'm looking forward to this happen again in the future. Maybe to talk about other topics. Yes, yes, yes. And well, have a nice day. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for caring. Thank you for everything. And yeah, it was really nice to have you here. And yeah, let's wait for Friday at 1 p.m. now.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
You guys, it was so much fun.
Have a nice